We're a few days out from potentially electing the first woman president of the United States, and she happens to be Black. Welcome, Lenny.
Hey, how are you doing? Well, it's great to see you, Ginger, and thank you so much for having me on your show. And before we jump in, I just want to thank you for being a powerful, smart woman who is spending her time talking to interesting people that inspire her, who aren't necessarily the most famous. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
I really have to know because your last name is like the Rolls Royces of last names. Are you related to Howard, David, or the billionaire Leonard? Please tell me Howard, David, or the billionaire Leonard.
No, I'm not related to any of them. And, sometimes when I would make dinner reservations, I would suddenly find myself getting the best tables and people getting very disappointed when I was not Howard or with the Stern School of Business or so on and so forth. So I am from the very famous Stern family from Radom, Poland. So none of the above.
Oh my God. Okay. I couldn't resist. I mean,
Yeah, all
it's
good.
like
All good.
if you want a good last name, like, find a Stern and get with them. Okay. All right. So let me start at the beginning. There's really not a single personal story about you that I found online, right? Like, I feel like you've led a very beautiful and somewhat private life. I mean, you're kind of behind the SS&K vibe. I want to get a little bit more understanding of how you were formed, because to me, you seem like you have a philanthropic heart. You have some emotional intelligence, and this seems to be a through line in your career, right? So, are you a native New Yorker? Where's your family from? Like, were you
Sure,
raised in a
sure.
family of entrepreneurs, or what's going on?
Yeah. So I'm a borough boy, and Queens, New York, very proud and true. Rego Park, asphalt streets, PS 174, so on and so forth. So I'm a native New Yorker. Um, but the purpose and sort of the DNA of maybe the philanthropic references you make, like many of us, we all come from our lived experiences. And for me, my lived experiences come from my folks and my family upbringing, and forgive me for oversharing, but it really defines who I am and a little bit of our business and my whole philosophy as an entrepreneur. My dad was an immigrant. He was born in Poland. He was 15 when World War II started. He had five brothers, so he's one of six. He was separated during the war. He ended up in Auschwitz and Dachau. 149823 tattooed on his arm, which is now tattooed on my ankle. He was liberated from Dachau at 89 pounds by a Black American tank commander. And when you go through any trauma, and we all have our own versions of trauma, you're either damaged and angry and immobilized, or you're damaged, and I like to say, uppercase C crazy or lowercase c crazy. My dad was lowercase c crazy. He wasn't going to let a moment like that define who he was and limit who he could be. He was passionate about living in the moment, making change, impacting the world around him. He came to America, met my mom, who was a native New Yorker, who was a social worker. He became a doctor. And for me and my sister, they were always, you're on the earth for a minute, make a what difference, find time to work with people you care about and respect, uh, and help people who are most in need. So for me, that was my grounding principles. So whatever I was going to do, I was going to find a way to make an impact and hopefully do some good with the work I did.
Wow. And so, when you were a child, what would you think? What did you think you were going to be doing as you were going through elementary school and high school? With these grounding values. I mean, were you an artist? Were you a writer? What kinds of things were happening when you were little? Did you know exactly where you were going to be today? Some people do. Some people are like, "Oh, I'm going to be this," and
Yeah.
they became that.
Listen, and I admire those people. And I think if we're
Yes.
all being honest, they are a small minority. And most people don't know what the hell they're going to do.